Hello, this is Shona Garver, school counselor at Licking Valley High School. I wanted to take a moment to put together a summary of our presentation from the College Credit Plus informational evening that we can share with parents and students so that you can view it at home. When we talk about College Credit Plus, we're talking about one option that allows students to earn high school and college credit at the same time. We have multiple pathways that students can take as students at Licking Valley High School to do this and to earn high school and college credit concurrently. One way that students can do this is by taking advanced placement courses. Students take courses at Licking Valley High School that are taught by high school teachers following a syllabus that's been approved by College Board. Advanced placement courses have an exam at the end that is created by College Board, proctored to the students, and if they do well on the exam, they can receive college credit for the course. Another option is to take College Credit Plus classes, or CCP courses. Licking Valley has some courses that are CCP classes also offered in-house. We offer CAP, which is Kenyon College's English series. There's 2 classes actually for a total of 8 semester hours. This is traditionally a senior level course taught by Mr. Miller. We, for the first time this year, offered OUZ's Human Biology 1 Basic Principles. This was highly successful first semester. It's a 3 semester hour class. Great option for students interested in going into the sciences, especially into biological sciences, but can also serve as a gen ed science requirement for college. That's taught by Dr. Shank. And then this year, for the first time this semester, Mr. Anderson is teaching Columbus State Intro to Sport and Exercise Science course. We also have a partnership with Ohio University Zanesville. Through a grant offering, they were able to provide us with Skyped equipment. You may have seen that set up in our library CCP room. Students are able to Skype into classes with professors who are live professors and interact with them in that environment. This year we offered sociology, psychology, public speaking, and visual arts in the afternoons. 2 of the classes were first semester, 2 were second semester, and students take them 2 days a week. That has been really successful. We've now done that 2 years in a row. We expect to be offering OUZ Skyped classes again next year. We will not know the official offerings until OUZ comes out with their schedule of classes, but we expect that it will probably be those same 4 classes. If something changes, we'll do our best to keep it to things that are highly transferable to other colleges. So, when students are looking at CCP, they can take classes like the ones that I just mentioned that are taught here in our building, some by our own faculty or staff, others they're Skyped in, or students can apply to go to a college campus or they can go online. We are lucky to have a lot of campuses nearby that our students have access to. When we talk a little more about AP, this is college level content that's at college level pace, but with high school support. And that's a significant difference, especially when it comes to CCP classes that are not taught by our high school teachers. So when students are in AP classes, they are in classes that are being taught by high school teachers. You can check jump rope to see what their grades are. You can make conferences to meet with teachers. They are highly rigorous. They are standardized. Colleges and universities understand what it means to take an AP course, but at the same time, there is that level of support that you get and expect in a high school where teachers can reach out to you. If there are students struggling, you can reach out and talk with them. We do weight our AP classes, so if a student gets a solid C or higher, the value of their GPA grade for that class will be 1 point higher than it would be in a non-weighted course. We also weight the credit of our AP classes, so they're actually worth 1.5 credits instead of 1 credit to help reward some of that additional hard work that the students are doing in that class. Students at the end of the course in May take an exam that is written by College Board. If they get a 3, 4, or 5 on the exam, then they are guaranteed college credit at any Ohio public university or college. That is by Ohio law. Our Board of Education has voted to cover the cost of advanced placement tests for students. That's a great option for students that does not come at a high cost to the family, and we're very grateful for that opportunity. The course exam score does determine college credit. It does not impact the student's high school grade in the class. Our AP classes that we're currently offering are AP Language and Composition, which is typically taken in the junior year with Beth Adkins. We have AP Calculus, that is AB, AP Chemistry, AP Physics 1, AP US History, and AP Government and Politics. Benefits to taking AP classes. Data tells us that students that take that level of rigor of coursework are better prepared for college. They're better able to study, and they develop those study skills required by more rigorous courses. There's a much deeper dive into the content area, and so a deeper understanding of the content. Colleges, about 90%, give credit for AP courses. Again, if you get that 3 or higher. In Ohio, the law says if you go to a public Ohio university, you will get college credit for a 3 or higher. If you go out of state or if you go to a private school, that is something that's up to those schools. But at the same time, 90% of colleges do give credit. It's also something that stands out in the college admissions process. So when students apply to colleges, one of the things that we send is a profile that says, here are the options of classes students could have taken as a student at Licking Valley High School. So they won't be judged if they didn't take a class we don't offer, but if a college understands that they had multiple AP classes at their availability, and then whether they chose to take them or not, that may be part of their admissions kind of decision-making process. Again, did they really follow that rigorous curriculum? This is an example of what it might look like if a student takes a series of AP classes here and then attends an Ohio campus. This is from Miami University of Ohio. You can go to most of their websites and find a sheet that'll show you what credit is assigned for each score. So here's a student that took 5 AP classes and got a score of 3 or higher, kind of mid-level score on 4 of them, and a score of 4 on the calculus test. Shows that this student would have earned 21 semester hours of credit for about 2/3 of a year of college. All right, so that's one path, the AP pathway. Another path is College Credit Plus. And one great thing is students don't have to pick and choose. They can mix and match, and a lot of our students will do that. A lot of them will take some AP classes and some College Credit Plus classes, and that's completely available to them. So College Credit Plus is a law that replaced the old post-secondary options law that used to be in place back in 2015-16. CCP is intended to increase access to college courses for public school students. It's open to students in grades 7 through 12 who demonstrate college readiness, and that is key. So we are required to let all families that have 7th through 12th graders know that this is something that their child could look at and could apply to, but the student does have to demonstrate that they're college ready in these different content areas to take the courses. Oftentimes colleges will use ACT or AccuPlacer scores to do that. Sometimes they'll look at grades in previous high school classes. Because of that, while legally it's open to grades 7 through 12, the vast majority of our students who participate are in 11th and 12th grade, because that's usually when most of our students really are at the point where they're academically and emotionally ready for the challenge. All right, at this point in the presentation at our meeting, we actually had someone from MVNU present on some of the specific rules, so I don't have that in slideshow format. I'm going to open this document and kind of talk through it with you real quick. I will not read it all to you. This document will be on our website and in an email I'll send out so you can read through it yourself. But some of the main points that we want to be sure that we hit about College Credit Plus. Generally speaking, most of the classes our students take through CCP, they end up earning 1 high school credit for the course. State law says if the class is 3 semester hours or more, it's considered a 1 credit course in high school. So when students are signing up for courses, there is a limit to how many total credits they can take in the year that the school district has to pay for. They're allowed to take in one calendar year running from June 1st to May 30th the equivalent of 30 semester hours of credit. Every one high school credit they're in is equal to 3 semester hours, and so every one high school credit deducts 3 semester hours from what they're allowed to take from that 30-hour cap. So we have students who may choose to come to the high school for a couple classes and then leave and do CCP classes. Maybe they come in to take band and their Journey to College classes. They decide to do Journey to College, the first one and then B, so they're in 2 credits here at the high school. That means that if we take the 60 semester hours minus the equivalent of 6 semester hours because they're in 2 credits here at the high school, that student would have the option of taking up to 24 semester hours of college credit that the district would cover the cost for. If they go beyond that cap, then that cost can go back to the family. All right. So how do students register for CCP courses? The first thing is that parents are required to attend an informational meeting and to learn kind of about the state laws, about the risks and benefits associated with CCP. There are really good benefits and there are really big risks. So we have to make sure that everybody involved in the program understands what those are. Once you've attended the informational meeting or watched this video, which will meet that requirement, then the intent to participate form has to be turned into our office by April 1st, so basically before spring break. So students need to turn that in, and the form says we have received the counseling, so we've gone to the meeting, we've learned about the risks and benefits, and we do intend to participate in CCP for next year. That April 1st deadline is for the fall semester of next year. So students turn that in, and then it is up to them to apply to the colleges that they're interested in attending. They are allowed to attend more than one college. That's not really common for kids who are going to the campus. They're allowed to, but it's not super common if they're actually going to the campus. We see that more often if maybe a student signed up for our CAP class and or Ohio University Zanesville biology or something like that. So they'll have to apply to both because they're taking both in-house and they're offered through separate colleges. Those kinds of things are a little more common than a student actually attending different campuses for classes. The student will apply to whatever college campuses that they need to and get those applications done, and then they have to alert their counselor that they applied so that we can send the supporting documents. If they don't tell us they applied, then we don't know to send the documents, and there's a Google Doc for them to fill out for that. They need to take any required placement tests. That may or may not be required. It is all determined by the college or university, and almost all of that communication will happen by email. So they need to be checking their emails. In most cases, the university will require them to set up a university email account. They need to be checking that, and that's how a lot of the communication is going to happen, so they've got to be paying attention. Again, the university is going to communicate with them directly. They're not going to go through our office, so it's not going to be the kind of thing that we're able to hunt them down. We do that a little more with the things happening in-house because we're more involved in that process. But if they're going off campus, we're really not going to be involved in the mix on that one. So they will go ahead, apply, and make sure they follow any of those requirements for testing or screening, anything that they need to do. Let us know that we can submit their supporting paperwork, and then if they're accepted, they'll go through the registration process. Male students must register for selective service and submit their selective service number to each college when they turn 18. This has to happen, or your family will receive a bill for the classes that they are in. They're not eligible for CCP funding if they've turned 18 and they're not registered with the selective service and they have not turned their number into the university. This is another struggle we had this year where we had some students come close to losing their funding because they were just not turning their numbers in. They weren't replying to the emails. They weren't registering. That has to happen. Students also have to be registered for selective service to receive financial aid when they go to college as a full-time student in the future. All right, so when it's time to actually enroll for classes, Students will work with their college admissions advisor and with their high school counselor. And this is where we talked about the importance of communication. Students must be able to communicate. They are taking the lead here. There's really not a place for parents when it comes to the communication piece with CCP. Due to the Federal Education Right to Privacy Act, your child will actually be in charge of their education on the college campus, and the college is not going to talk to the parent. You cannot call and talk to a professor. And that's what I say when you take an AP class or a CCP class in-house, you have access to the teachers because your student is here with a Licking Valley teacher. Once they leave and go to a college campus, you will not be able to speak to those professors. You will not be able to log in and check grades, and none of those types of supports are in place. It's truly up to the student to do all the communicating. And they have to communicate with our office as well as the college. So they've got to be back and forth talking to us about scheduling and the college about scheduling and what the master schedule looks like here, what's going to work there. They need to be sure they're running all courses past us that they want to count for a core subject class, because we have to check it against state standards and make sure that it's going to apply and actually count for a required course. So all of that is on the student. It's an important part of the decision-making process as to whether or not they're ready for this next step. Every college by law will have the parents submit a mature content form. This has to be submitted or the student cannot take courses through CCP. This is a form that acknowledges that they are taking college classes and that the content of the course will not be changed for the student, even if they are as young as a 7th grader. The class is going to be the class no matter what. The presenter that we heard from at the CCP meeting talked about a situation where a parent of a 7th grader was very upset because they put their student in an Art 101 class, and the first day of class there was a male nude model that the students were drawing. Well, the family had filled out a mature content form. I think we can all probably agree that's not a great place for a 7th grader to be, but they're not going to change the content of the class for that student. So it's really important that you understand that if a student is taking a college class, that's every bit of the content that would be presented to college adults that are taking the class is the same content that your student is going to be exposed to. And you do have to sign a form acknowledging that for them to participate. So students, once they're accepted, they go through the scheduling, they do their mature content form, and they will let us know where they're going. They work with us to create the schedule along with their CCP advisor. After students have scheduled their courses, they're not done yet. They have to submit a syllabus to us for each course they're taking. Even if you've had students participate before, this is new for next year. It has to do with some of the laws around gifted services and us having to document what students are doing. So now we have to have students submit syllabi for each class they're taking. And then students also need to be sure that they are communicating with our library staff, Mrs. Adkins and Mrs. Johnston, about what books they need. They handle ordering books, but if students do not communicate with them about what classes are taking, what books need to be ordered in a timely manner, they may not have what they need on time for class to start. So that's really important, again, that communication piece. At the end of each semester, the colleges send us a copy of the student grades, but the student is responsible at the end of the first 9 weeks and the third 9 weeks for coming to the counseling office and showing their grades to Danielle so that we can record them on their first 9-week grade and their third 9-week grade, and that counts for sports eligibility and Renaissance. So students have to bring them in at the first and third 9 weeks because the colleges will not report them to us at that time, but we are required to include that in eligibility for sports. Things to consider. All right, so it is important to remember that CCP is awesome for kids who are ready for it. If they are prepared, both academically and emotionally, then they can be really successful in the opportunities to dive deeper into content, to explore things beyond what we offer in these walls, to dip their toe into the college experience. Those are all great, right? And get some college credits, that's all great. It's only great if they're ready for it. And unfortunately, if a student is not ready for it, there are some pretty big risks and some pretty big things to consider. And we have had students who have really struggled at times in CCP. I wouldn't say it's the norm, but I think it happens more often than people would guess. So our job, and the state says this, is we have to talk about the risks and the benefits so that everybody understands, kind of going into it eyes wide open, of what we're getting into. Okay? Things to consider. When a student does CCP, this does not change their graduation requirements. So the student still is required to meet all Licking Valley graduation requirements, even if they are a CCP student. This includes community service, the SEALs, all of those types of things have to happen. And again, they have to communicate with their counselor here to be sure that the things they're taking on the college campus do meet graduation requirements. A student must provide their own transportation to the college if he or she is taking courses on the college campus, and they're responsible for paying for any parking. All right, so the school is not required to handle transportation. This is huge. The student needs to be ready for college level work. CCP courses, in every sense of the word, they are college classes. So they need to be academically capable and emotionally mature enough to handle the coursework. Okay? Courses taken on college campus are comprised of students of all ages. Students could be put into a study group or a group project with students of any age. They could be required to interact with people online or in person of any age. That could be a 45-year-old. It could be a 21-year-old. So just kind of understanding that they're going to be an active member of the course and have to interact with the peers in the course appropriately. If your student's in a CCP course, he or she needs to be prepared to do all communication with the professor. The professor will not contact you if there are concerns about your student. If the student is struggling, it is their responsibility to seek the extra help that's needed, and not the role of the parent to contact the professor. There is no requirement for college professors to post grades or assignments online. In fact, most professors are not notified which students are CCP students. Any student taking CCP courses should be willing and comfortable to make phone calls to professionals. This has become a huge issue for us with some of our CCP students. In many cases, when kids run into a tough situation, for example, my internet login for the Ohio State site's not working, or I'm having some kind of a scheduling issue, the answer is you need to call and talk to somebody. I alone in the last year have had 4 different instances of kids having total meltdowns, crying. I've had cussing. It just completely distraught at the idea of them having to call and talk to a person on the college campus. And we can't do it for them. We're truly not allowed. You as a parent can't do it for them. And we've offered to help. I said, look, we can do it together. I can put you on speakerphone and you can, we'll talk ahead of time about what to do. And to the point we've had kids just go home because they're so upset about it. They have to be ready to have these types of conversations. If your student is not used to using a phone in today's world, I get it. But that's something to start practicing. And I would say if they want to do CCP, then I'd start having them call and make their dentist appointments. Start having them call and order a pizza. They need to get used to being on the phone, not all the time, but that's a skill they have to problem solve. And some of the things that need to be figured out can't be done online. So they have to be able to pick the phone up and have a conversation with someone in a professional setting. Students who participate in extracurricular activities must still meet eligibility requirements. And again, you have to make sure you have enough credits on your schedule to be eligible, and you have to maintain the required GPA and turn your grades in at the end of the first and third 9 weeks. It's important to think about where your student is headed after high school. So CCP can be exactly the right pathway for your student, but for others it may not be. You want to talk to the colleges, and if they know where they want to go after graduation, call. Say, here are the different options we have. We have these advanced placement options. We have these CCP options. What do you think best prepares us for our next step? Talk to them. Different colleges are going to have different opinions. Credits are guaranteed to transfer from one Ohio public university to another Ohio public university, but this does not mean that they are guaranteed to transfer out of state or to a private school. It also doesn't mean they have to transfer them to count for the same course. So we have had situations where students have taken classes and the university they transfer to says, sure, we'll give you credit, but it's going to be elective credit. It's not going to count for the same class you took at the college. So you want to really talk to your advisor about what's going to transfer and make sure you're taking things that are going to actually help you out. If a student participates in CCP and fails a course or drops the course after the drop deadline, generally speaking, that's about 2 weeks into the class, then the cost of the course goes to the family and the family has to reimburse. So again, they're getting high school and college credit. That means that if a student's dropping and they get a withdraw fail or they fail a course, then that F goes onto their high school transcript and onto their college transcript. You cannot choose not to disclose the fact that a student has taken and failed a college class to another college. That's considered academic dishonesty, and that could get them in a lot of trouble down the road. It's also important to understand that this can put students in a very precarious situation if they're starting college with a GPA that actually puts them below the required GPA for financial aid and can start them off on probation with financial aid originally. It can put them in a lot of tough spots. So it's a big deal to not pass a CCP class. And unfortunately, most of the time where we've had this happen, and it does happen, parents don't know, and it seems like the people that tell them is usually us calling to say, hey, we just got this grade, did you know this was going on? And now you owe the district $1,000, and if it was a required class, we got to come up with a plan B for how we're going to cover that. It may mean another $250, $300 for an online class because we're already halfway through the year and can't put them into a core class here. So when that happens, it's not fun, and it's a real risk. It's not the norm, but it definitely occurs. So it's not something we want to think, oh, that's just that's a worst case scenario. It is a worst case scenario, but it's a real thing that does happen. Okay, so to kind of go through some of these things a little bit faster, I just don't want to take too much of your time. Another rule we have: seniors who are hoping to take a CCP class required for graduation must schedule that class first semester to take that class at the high school. Or they'll have to take it at the high school. That is because we've had a number of scenarios that are really not good for everybody. We had a senior a few years ago who failed a class, and we found out 3 days before graduation that they didn't pass a course required for graduation, and then the parents had to pay us by graduation. They had to pay for an online class. The student had to complete an online class in about 36 hours straight to get this credit, and we had to rush to get that graded so that they could walk at graduation. Not a good situation. We had another situation where we had about 7 kids in 1 year told by a local college that they would all have English on their schedule second semester. They were guaranteed it. So we're like, great. So we didn't put English on any of their schedules. And then come second semester, not one kid was able to get into English because the college's schedule had changed. And now we had 7 of our top seniors without an English halfway through the year, and we didn't have an English to put them in because all our English classes were half over. So then we're talking about paying for online classes and doing that. So we've ended up just saying, if you're a senior and it's a required class, it needs to be on your fall schedule, or you need to take it here. Second semester, you can take all the CCP classes you want. They just need to count for electives. They can't be something that we're counting on for graduation. Most of this we've talked about. There is a policy, and this is a state policy that each district has to adhere to, where a student, if they get a CCP GPA under a 2.0, or they withdraw from or receive no credit for 2 or more classes in the same term, they're put on CCP academic probation. And that does impact what courses they can take the next semester, and how many courses they can take. If they don't correct that the next semester, then they can be removed from their CCP program altogether. There is a way to appeal that process, but it's lengthy, and if you're in that situation, it's kind of tough to work through that. Poor academic performance in CCP courses can also impact college financial aid, like we mentioned earlier. There's the note again about students. Once you're 18, if you're male, you have to be registered with Selective Service, and attendance is very important. This includes if you're going to take classes here at Licking Valley with our teachers, they are required to follow the same calendar as the college campus, and they have to keep things moving at a pretty brisk pace. Again, there are a lot of benefits to our students participating in the CCP program. The fact that they can try college courses before attending full-time. It's an opportunity to take classes not offered at Licking Valley High School and expand those academic options. It's a chance to gain independence and maturity, and of course, those free college credits. But we talked about the risks. What are some challenges that we have run into? Students forgetting to submit forms like the mature content form or selective service registration. That has been kind of a challenge for some of our students. Effective communication. Are they ready and able to talk on the telephone? Can they email professionally? Can they seek out a meeting and go and talk with their advisor or their professor if they need to? Difficulty with scheduling. Students that are CCP students generally are kind of the low ones on the totem pole. Makes sense. If I'm a degree-seeking student, I'm paying to take classes, I think I should get priority scheduling, and I think most of us would agree with that. But what that means is our CCP students have access, in most cases, to the things that are still left open after the degree-seeking student schedule. And that has led to some frustration with some students where they have one thing in mind, show up, and what they wanted to take is not available. We've had students fail or withdraw from classes and be on academic probation. We've had students who've dropped classes and not notified our office. So one challenge is that the law is really written to cut the school counselors out of the process in a lot of ways. It's done intentionally because they don't want schools to tell kids not to take classes, and I understand that. But as a consequence of that, students can go make decisions about their schedule and we are not in the loop. And we've had situations where students have dropped a class and then all of a sudden we realize it, but it's too late and they're now academically ineligible for sports because they didn't have enough classes on their schedule and didn't come and tell us. So we had one schedule in our system and then didn't know they dropped the class till the end of the semester and then they were ineligible because they didn't have enough credits. A few technology struggles. I feel like that's gotten a little better. Sometimes we have some struggles around technology access in books, but that we're working on figuring that out. And then failure to attend class. That's been a big one for students who are not academically successful. If they're on class, attendance often is an issue, but even online, like, are they reading the emails? Are they checking in regularly? Are they doing all the things? That's really where I feel like we see kids struggle. If they're doing all the things, we don't usually see them not passing classes. This gives you a little bit of an idea of a pretty average grade span. This is from last fall. We had 45 students in 71 classes. Of that, we had 32 of them receive A's in their classes. There were 16 B's, 10 C's, 8 D's, 3 F's, and 2 withdraw fails. So the average CCP GPA was about a 2.9. So as you can see, the majority of our students are being successful, right? Definitely the majority are being successful, but it is not unheard of that kids struggle and deal with some of these consequences. And again, these are our high-end kids. So for a lot of the time when we see kids that maybe have a D and F or withdraw fail, this is the first time we're dealing with those types of things. So they need to be ready to communicate and make sure that we're not surprised at the end of the semester by things that we didn't know were happening. I think I've covered most of this earlier in the presentation. What we recommend now is that you just have a conversation as a family. So what are your students' goals after high school? What's their current strength and what are their challenges? What do they need to kind of work on? What skills do they need to work on and do they need to build up so they're ready for this before they tackle this challenge? And then we need to think about what they need to do to be eligible and maintain full-time student status. So how many classes do they need to take? And that's something that we can help with in our office. I cannot stress this enough. The number one thing that I think goes to student success is their ability and their willingness to communicate. Is that a strength for them? If it's not, then it's really something that we need to start working on and intentionally putting your student in situations that kind of take them outside their comfort zone and force them to take the lead on communication, especially with adults. That's just so important for CCP to work. For each student, their situation is unique. There's no real correct path, but where they want to go after high school should play an important role in the decision making that's happening. So please make sure that you're kind of considering that. What are their goals? What are their skill sets? Talk with their counselor. We can sit down and have individual meetings. We love doing that. It's a lot of fun. We're not in any way upset to do that. It's something we enjoy. And then, like I said, reach out to the admissions office of colleges that students are going to, go over their options and see what they would recommend. Okay, I think we've covered the basics. Please reach out with questions. This video does meet the requirement for saying that you have received the information needed to fill out your intent to participate form. All of that can be found on our website. Thank you so much. Take care.